Oh, do you think like the war in Iran right now is like going to like make the work for Boeing harder?
The war in Ukraine was hard is because we get a lot of titanium. And whenever there's some kind of geopolitical issue, we're always affected, right?
How do you think AI is changing how people at Boeing work?
It can help me, but it will not take over what the engineer does. At least that's my take. We'll see what happens in 50 years.
What are you most proud of as a Boeing engineer right now?
So many different programs. Kind of sad. I have pretty much worked on every single Boeing aircraft that's flying out there.
How do you manage a full-time job while still taking care of like kids' activities and stuff?
Go to work really early. So usually I get to work by 6:30, 7, so that I can leave and then take it. And then sometimes I log back on, right? And I take my job very, very seriously.
Hello, Miss Fernando. Thank you so much for taking my interview questions. Could you like start off by introducing yourself a little bit?
Sure, Jessie, you're welcome. My name's Enoka Fernando. I am an aerospace engineer, and I have worked in the industry for 26 years now.
Wow, that's amazing. What do you what's your home country?
I'm from Sri Lanka. I am born in Jamaica. My parents went there for their honeymoon and stayed there for like 12 years. And so I'm born there. And then they decided I needed to go to school in Sri Lanka. So we moved back to Sri Lanka when I was just 4.
How long were you in Sri Lanka?
I went through school. All of my schooling is in Sri Lanka. I went through high school in Sri Lanka. And after graduating high school, I got into college here. And I went to North Carolina State.
Could you tell us some like little known facts about Sri Lanka?
Sure. Sri Lanka is usually known for its beaches and its gorgeous scenery, but Sri Lanka had the world's first prime minister, female prime minister. Her name was Sirimavo Bandaranaike, right? Also, most Sri Lankans can read and write. It has the highest literacy rate in any country. It's 92% literate, which means any person you see on the street can read and write. It's free education all the way through college. Even if I go to the poorest part, kids can read and write.
Is there any like interesting wildlife there?
Oh yes, Sri Lanka has lots of natural forests. They have a leopard that can only be found in Sri Lanka. And of course, tons of elephants. It's normal to see elephants walking around the road. When we go on vacation, it's always funny when the kids look and go, "Oh my God, there's an elephant on the road, Mom!" And I'm like, "That's normal."
Did you do any like professional sports in Sri Lanka?
Yes, I was a national swimmer. I swam from the age of like 3. My sister was learning how to swim, and I was in the kiddie pool, and everything she did, I did. And then the teacher's like, "Can I just have that kid too?" And then I started really small, and I swam till I was 18. And I swam in the South Asian Federation Games for Sri Lanka.
What did it feel like to swim for your entire country?
Oh, it feels amazing. But it was a lot of hard work. I woke up at 4 a.m. That's my normal wake-up time. And then we'd go for swimming, and then swimming again in the evening, and we'd back about 7 o'clock to do homework in bed.
Earlier you mentioned that you worked at Boeing. Like what area do you work in, and what's your favorite part about it?
Oh, so I am a structural engineer. I come under structures, and I work for flight sciences. I think of flight sciences as what you need when you have to build an airplane. So there's about 3,000 engineers in flight sciences, and they're divided up into like low-speed aerodynamics, high-speed aerodynamics, stability and control of the airplane, flight controls, right? And me, I'm loads and dynamics. And then there's also weights. As it pulls maneuvers, right? As it's flying. Not a Boeing airplane, but I'll use it as an example. All the loads in the airplane for that, as it experiences those different speeds and altitudes, come from us. So that structural engineers can take those outside loads due to dynamic pressure and the weight of the airplane, right? It gets put in equilibrium, forces, right? Physics. And then we say, okay, what do we need to design this piece of structure to withstand that load? So I see airplanes really early at Boeing. Sometimes they don't become airplanes. We call them paper airplanes, right? Because we decide they're not worth building. But sometimes the paper airplane becomes a real airplane. So the new 777X, I worked on that as a paper airplane in 2012. It's finally built and flying. So we get to see it all the way at the beginning. And so the shape of the airplane is dependent on the loads I give. So sometimes when I'm flying, I look out at, say, the 787 and I go, oh, the fin looks like that because we said so. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. Will like designing like a big airplane be like different from designing a smaller airplane? Like
It is. The requirements are different, right? Sometimes there's one single aisle in the middle. Sometimes there's dual aisle. The 777 can go up to 1,000,000 pounds for takeoff, right? And the one that I worked on can go up to like 784,000. Just the engines weigh 33,000. That's like a semi-truck hanging off the airplane.
do you think like the war in Iran right now is like going to like make the work for Boeing harder?
It makes it more interesting. Politics always get into it, right? The war in Ukraine was hard is because we get a lot of titanium. We love titanium because titanium is strong and light more than anything. And the world's best titanium is in Russia, right? And then if you can't buy from Russia, to buy that same quality of titanium elsewhere is hard. So Boeing has a supplier chain that wraps the entire world.
Yeah.
It's like a big puzzle to put this together. If you can put everything together but the engines are missing, then you don't have an airplane, right?
Yeah.
Or you've got everything else but you can't make the part that's titanium in the back here. Well, then you're stuck waiting too.
Yeah.
So also, we don't want to buy a whole lot of supply and keep it lying around because it's so expensive. So we definitely get affected by wars and stuff because it affects our supply chain.
How do you think AI is changing how people at Boeing work?
Well, that's a good question. There is a lot of AI. AI is being used for requirements. There's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of requirements that go to make an airplane, to make it safe. Managing those requirements and their interconnectedness, right? They say Boeing has some of the world's best integrators because so many different people have to come together to integrate an airplane. And AI helps us follow those requirements. It also helps me with scripting. If I want to write a quick script to write something, I tell AI that this is my input, this is my output, this is how I want to do it. I want it to look like this. And 95% of the work is done. When it comes out, I can tweak it a little bit. Boeing's over 100 years old. We have a lot of data. And I love comparing data from the newer airplanes to old airplanes. I work on engines a lot, right? So I always like to compare what the loads look like today versus what it was back in 1990. But it's usually painful because you have to go into archives and pick it out. And some of them are microfiche. You don't even know what that is, but it's like a slide that you have to look where data used to be put in and you have to put it on a reader to be able to read that data. And then transferring it on paper was hard. Today with AI, we can go into databases and pull data out a lot faster and compare things. And that, I think, is one of the biggest values of AI. But will it take over doing what I do? No, it can help me, but it will not take over what the engineer does.
It's not smart enough.
It can be taught, but there's a lot of knowledge in engineering that comes from just doing, and that's hard to transfer to a computer without a lot of teaching, right? It won't take over what an engineer does. At least that's my take. We'll see what happens in 50 years.
How do you manage a full-time job while still taking care of like kids' activities and stuff?
I don't sleep much. I think that's the no. I'm an early riser, right? So I go to work really early. So usually I get to work by 6:30, 7, so that I can leave and then take it. And then sometimes I log back on. And not only do I do the engineering, I'm also an administrator, right? And I take my job very, very seriously.
What do you think is the most promising thing for Boeing right now?
The most promising thing for Boeing is always, I think, it's people and the next generation of engineers that come, right? So I'm always a mentor. I teach a lot at Boeing, right? It's kind of hard to imagine I'm so old, but everybody coming in is so young now. They're in their 20s.
What are you most proud of as a Boeing engineer right now?
I think I'm proud of the fact that I've worked so many different programs, right? I started on the U.S. tanker that it's a tanker. It's something that carries a bunch of fuel and it stays in the sky, and all the F-22s and the F-35s and the fighter jets can just get fuel while it's going in for combat. So it's like think of it like a flying gas tank, right? It flies around, but it's safe. Yeah. I have worked 757, 737, 767, 787, 777. Kind of sad. I have pretty much worked on every single Boeing aircraft that's flying out there.
Wow, that is so cool. Thank you so much for accepting my interview.
Thank you, Jessie.